Greetings, YouTube. The Doctor is in. Dr. Urias Papers here, coming at you with another commentary on Dungeons and Dragons. And today we are going to be going over the spell Weird. We're almost done doing the updates for all of the 2024 spells. We only got one more to go. It's Wish, but we're going to do Weird first. We're going to talk about this spell. We're going to talk about changes that were made in this spell in the 2024 Player's Handbook update, because that's what they're calling it. And then we are going to talk about how this spell has evolved from Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, or as some like to call it, First Edition, all the way through Second and Third Edition, all the way back up here to Fifth Edition in 2024. So a lot to go through. Don't go away and stay tuned. All right, before we begin, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you have any questions or comments, please leave a question or comment. And don't forget to hit that notification bell. All right, back in the day, we gave this spell a solid C. I was not a big fan of this spell. Not at all. But let's go through it really quick. Let's put the arrow back over here. Actually, we can get rid of the arrow for just a little bit. So here it is. It's a 9th level spell. I didn't really feel like this was a 9th level spell, considering where this spell began in AD&D to where it is today. So it has really stayed the same, and we'll talk about that, but this one was really kind of a nerf to the spell. So it's a 9th level spell, 1 action, 120 feet, had a area of 30 feet, 30-foot radius. Lasted for a minute. It was concentration. It was School of Illusion, and it was a wisdom save. So that's not too bad. So drawing on the deepest fears of a group of creatures, you create illusionary creatures in their minds, visible only to them. Each creature in the 30-foot radius centered on a point of your choice within range must make a wisdom saving throw. On a failure, they get the frightened condition for 1 minute, as long as you concentrate. And then the illusion calls on the creature's deepest fears, manifesting its worst nightmare as an implacable threat at the end of each frightened creature's turn. Meaning, if they saved, they weren't frightened. And if they weren't frightened, the thing that happens at the end of their turn doesn't happen. So at the end of each of the frightened creature's turns, it must succeed on a wisdom saving throw or take 4d10 psychic damage. On a successful save, the spell ends for that creature. So, could fail the first round, pass the second round, I only take 4d10 damage, and I'm frightened, and it's a 9th level spell. So, no, that was not great. So that's why we gave this a C. And by the way, it's only usable by wizards, and there are some exceptions to that. All right, so let's take a look at the new Weird that came out in the 2024 update. Still a 9th level spell, still 1 action, range of 120 feet, still 30-foot radius, still lasts for a minute, still for concentration, still wisdom saving throw, still School of Illusion. It is now usable by warlocks and wizards. So you'll notice the previous one said wizards only. Now it says warlocks and wizards. You try to create illusory terrors in others' minds. Each creature of your choice within 30-foot sphere centered on a point within range makes a wisdom saving throw. On a failed save, it takes 10d10 psychic damage, on average 55 points of damage, and has the frightened condition for the duration. On a successful save, it takes half damage only, not frightened. Frightened target makes a wisdom saving throw at the end of each of its turns. On a failed save, it takes 5d10 psychic damage. 5d10. So that's 5.5 times 5, which is roughly around 30 points of damage. So we went from no damage on the initial hit and 4d10 psychic damage every turn if you failed your save to 10d10 on the initial hit on a failed save, or half on a successful save. And if you failed, then you were frightened and you took 5d10 damage every turn until you made a save. So, substantial improvement. Do I think that this spell is it's definitely above a C. Do I think it is an A? No. Do I think it merits a 9th level spell slot? I think the only thing in this that the authors thought conferred 9th level spell status to this is that it does have a 30-foot radius sphere effect, meaning everything there is going to get affected. So it's a big group spell, but I'm going to move it from a C up to a B. There's probably some other 9th level spells that I would take other than this one. Just saying, it is what it is. All right, so let's go over what the spell used to be in 1st edition. So the spell Weird did not appear until the Unearthed Arcana. So it wasn't in the original Player's Handbook. There was a supplementary book that was published a few years after the Player's Handbook called the Unearthed Arcana. So we got the Player's Handbook for Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. We got the Dungeon Master's Guide. Well, really, we got the Monster Manual first. Not sure why. We got the Player's Handbook. We got the Dungeon Master's Guide. We got Deities and Demigods, the Fiend Folio, and then after that, we got Unearthed Arcana. So here's where Weird appeared. It was an illusionist spell. So that's why it's 7th level, because illusionists could only cast up to 7th level spells. And so when you cast the spell, the illusionist must be able to converse with the subject or subjects to bring the Dwarmer into being. I love that word. During the casting, the illusionist must call out to the subject or subjects informing one or all of their final fate. This had a range of 3 inches or 30 feet, and it was a 2-inch radius. So you could affect a lot of things at one time. So the force of the magic is such that even if the subject or subjects make their saving throw, they're paralyzed with fear for full 7 segments, and they lose 1 to 4 strength points from this fear, although the lost strength points will return in 7 rounds. So failure to save versus spell will cause the subject or subjects to face their nemesis. The opponents must most feared. So illusions of their most feared enemies will appear. And that was up to the DM too. So there was kind of a lot of interpretation in this. So actual combat must then take place, for no magical means of escape will be possible. The foe fought is real for all intents and purposes. If the subject or subjects lose, they're dead. If the weird caused by the Dwarmer is slain, then the subject or subjects emerge with no damage, no loss of items seemingly used in combat. So if you used a potion or something, you wouldn't lose that. And no loss of spells if you cast spell slots. The character gains experience for defeating the weird if applicable. Although each round of combat seems normal, it takes but 1 segment. So up above it says you're paralyzed for a full 7 segments if you fail, or if you pass the save. So that's 7 rounds of combat. All right, and then during the course of the spell, the illusionist must concentrate fully upon maintaining it. So that was Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. So let's look at 2nd edition. Here's 2nd edition. It starts down here. So range of 30 yards, area of effect 20. Essentially, it does the same thing as the Unearthed Arcana version, except that the combat lasts for 10 rounds. So it actually defines the combat, and those who saved against the spell can then take action. So they can see, or they can heal, or they can do things against the creatures that failed their saving throw for this. So still lose 1 to 4 points of strength from this fear. Strength will return in 1 turn. That was 10 minutes. And then you still had to do a fight. Now in 3rd edition, this spell became very different. So it's a 9th level spell usable by sorcerers and wizards, any number of creatures, no 2 of which can be more than 30 feet apart, and it functions like Phantasmal Killer, except it affects more than 1 creature. Only the affected creatures see the phantasmal creatures attacking them, though you see the attackers as shadowy shapes. If the subject's fortitude succeeds, it takes 3d6 points of damage and is stunned for a round. The subject also takes 1d4 points of temporary strength damage, and temporary strength damage was healed 1 point per hour. So now let's take a look at Phantasmal Killer, because that was back in the day, that was a very nasty spell. So here we have Phantasmal Killer down here, and it's a 4th level spell. 1 standard action. It has a medium range, and it affects 1 living creature. Now, Weird has a medium range, but it affects multiple creatures as long as they are not more than 30 feet apart. And there is a will and fortitude save for this spell. So if we look up here, you create a phantasmal image of the most fearsome creature imaginable to the subject simply by forming the fears of the subject's subconscious mind into something that its conscious mind can visualize. This most horrible beast. Only the spell's subject can see the phantasmal killer. You see only a vague shape. The target first gets a will save to recognize the image as unreal. If that fails, the phantasm touches the subject, and the subject must succeed on a fortitude save or die. Boom, dead. So this Weird in 3rd edition is truly a 9th level spell because it could kill multiple creatures at one time. They got their will save, and will was not an easy thing to make. And then they get a fortitude save, and if they failed that, they were dead. So odds are, if you attack like 10 creatures, one of them was going to go. Even if the fortitude save is successful, the subject takes 3d6 points of damage, and then Weird also adds 1d4 strength damage on top of that. If the subject of a phantasmal killer attack succeeds in disbelieving and is wearing a helmet of telepathy, the beast can be turned upon you. So you could still do that with Weird. So that was the thing. So this spell has changed quite a bit from AD&D all the way to 5th edition, 2024. 3rd edition probably was the nastiest version of this spell because it could kill, but it only could kill after 2 failed saves. Whereas 1st and 2nd edition made you fight something that the DM had to prepare ahead of time, or the players should prepare that ahead of time too, or work that out with the DM. Whereas 5th edition, it just did some damage every round and made you frightened, which was terrible. And then the 2024 version bumped that up because I'm sure they knew that that was not good enough. All right, that is what I have for everybody today. I appreciate everybody tuning in, and I will catch everybody